Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to my Premier League Matchweek 9 predictions. Now finally the Premier League is back. It feels like it's been absolutely forever since we've seen some Premier League football. And of course with the Premier League returning, it has come back and it has come back strong. Because in our first week back in the Premier League, we've got the North London derby, we've got the Manchester derby.
I can't imagine a more beautiful thing.
So of course, jumping straight into things, we start off Premier League Matchweek 9 with the North London derby. And I've got a feeling like this is going to be a North London derby we've never seen before. I mean, I will be brutally honest, I think normally heading into a North London derby, I normally favour Tottenham Hotspurs. But this time around, it is a whole new Arsenal team. I mean, I don't know what's more of a miracle, the fact that Jesus was able to walk on water, or the fact that his goal scoring abilities taken Arsenal to the top of the table. Obviously looking at Tottenham Hotspurs, they are currently unbeaten in the Premier League at the moment. And although Arsenal have lost one game, they've won every single other game. It will definitely be a close encounter. And although Tottenham Hotspurs are unbeaten, I'm sorry Tottenham fans, for some reason I do think that the Gunners will be firing home and they will take it with a 3-2 win. As I said, I normally do favour Tottenham Hotspurs in these games, but as we've seen with Tottenham Hotspurs in terms of when they do lose points and when they've lost points in the Champions League, there's just something about this Tottenham Hotspurs team that's just very, well, Tottenham-y. They still have the ability to bottle it. Look, without a doubt, they are a fantastic team. I mean, in their previous game, they just beat Leicester City 6-2. So for me to say that they're going to lose their next game, it's not easy for me. But you know what, looking at this Arsenal team, if there's any team to take points from Tottenham right now, it will be them. It will be an incredibly tight encounter. Now, hopping on to our next fixture, we've got Bournemouth versus Brentford. I still cannot believe that Bournemouth, ever since sacking Scott Parker, are unbeaten in the Premier League.
That's impossible.
And in fact, in their previous game, they drew to the richest club in world football, Newcastle United, and they weren't bad in that game. Yes, I wouldn't say that they were the most dominant or that they were the better team between the two, but they definitely did take their chances, and I will even say that they were lucky in terms of conceding that penalty. But at the end of the day, for Bournemouth to get a point there, and for them to get 5 points in their last 3 games, is a huge achievement for them. I do think it does go down to their goalkeeper. I think Neto did very good to keep the ball out of the Neto.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
And I think versus Brentford, they could definitely do something similar. Although saying that, we have seen Brentford on many different occasions this season. They have proven that they are a totally different team in terms of attacking and defensive ability. They can be very, very solid. Although I would say one of the problems versus Arsenal is the fact that they did struggle with aerial ability. I do think versus a team like Bournemouth with players such as Billing, it could be a major problem for them. But at the end of the day, as I did say earlier, Brentford have proven their strengths, and I do think they will take you know what, I'm going to put a 1-0 win. I am going to put a bit of faith in Bournemouth's side. But as I said, looking at this current Brentford team, they've shown some brilliant plays so far this season, and they could take the points versus Bournemouth. Now, marching on to our next game, we've got Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Now, looking at Chelsea, obviously they've got a brand new manager in the Premier League with Graham Potter. Hopefully Potter can put a bit of magic on this Chelsea team. And hopefully Potter doesn't have a Weasley performance versus Crystal Palace. Is that too many Harry Potter jokes for a football-related video? Probably. But moving on, I do think looking at Crystal Palace, although they are a magnificent team, I really have a lot of belief in this Crystal Palace team. But versus Chelsea, the odds have never really favoured them. Chelsea have won the last 10 fixtures between these two teams.
I'm just happy to be here.
So Chelsea should still be the obvious favourites here. Although looking at Chelsea, they have struggled obviously when it comes to the Champions League this season in general, but they're not out of things. If you look at the Premier League table, I mean, they're only 7th place. Still weird for them to sack Thomas Tuchel, but I do think Chelsea will still end up taking it. They've got a lot of quality in their team, and I think I'm going to end up going with a 2-0 result. As I said, Crystal Palace could definitely take it though. They've got so much quality in their team. I mean, throughout the season so far, they've drawn to the richest club in world football. They drew to a very, very informed Brentford team, and they've also drawn to Liverpool. So you know what, you cannot sleep on this Crystal Palace team, but I do still think Chelsea will take it. Moving on to our next game, we've got Fulham versus Newcastle United. Now, I will say that this is a game that I almost have no idea what to expect. In fact, I asked you guys on my community tab what you guys would go for. It seems as if more and more people favor Newcastle United, which is slightly strange. I understand where you guys are coming from, but Fulham have had a brilliant season so far, definitely taking more points. I mean, you look at a player like Mitrovic, breaking the championship goal-scoring record last season. Currently the top goal scorer in the Nations League. In terms of the Premier League, he's scoring for fun.
I'm kind of a big deal.
It could be a very, very interesting matchup, especially because looking at Newcastle United, they haven't been brilliant. Obviously, 5 draws in 7 games so far. Not the dream start you would expect from the richest club in world football. I do think that this encounter could be an incredibly, incredibly close one. And despite the fact that Mitrovic has been on goal scoring form, I don't know what it is, it's just a gut feeling, but I do think Newcastle United could take this one. Now moving on, we've got Liverpool versus Brighton. Now after, let's call it a shock start to this Premier League season, a very dark start, let's hope that Liverpool can, well, brighten up their season and that they don't dunk into further darkness.
Nice.
Because look at Liverpool, they have been absolutely woeful. In terms of goals, they have been there for majority of the season, but defensively letting in way too many goals, and something seems to be a real problem. And looking at Brighton though, it could be a seriously problem. Brighton currently in the top 4, but they've just lost their manager Graham Potter, and under a new manager, will they be able to keep that momentum? Only 1 loss so far in the Premier League is a phenomenal start for Brighton. They've obviously got an absolutely fantastic team. I'm still worried since they lost the likes of Neil Maupay, but at the end of the day, I feel like it could be a close encounter, but I do think Liverpool will end up taking it. I mean, the matches between these two teams over the last few years have proven to be very, very close. Because, I mean, if you just look at the last, 4 encounters between these two teams, I mean, Liverpool have only won 1 of those 4 games, Brighton have won 1, and there have been 2 draws. So it's a very, very close encounter at the end of the day. But as I said, look at Liverpool this time around, I could just see a 2-0 win, and this could be the start of Liverpool's comeback. This could be Liverpool's redemption. Now, moving on to our next game, talking about pulling socks up, we have Everton versus Southampton. Now, Everton picking up their first win of the season. I mean, I feel like I'm being pranked. Where are the hidden cameras? I cannot believe it took Everton their first game without Jordan Pickford to win their game. I mean, that just doesn't sound legally right to say. At the end of the day, Everton picking up a win versus West Ham United is absolutely huge for them. And I've seen some very promising moments over the last few games. 5 games unbeaten for Everton is not a bad run to be in. Having an attack up front like Neil Maupay, although he hasn't been, scoring for fun like a lot of other strikers in the Premier League, he has been absolutely running his boots off and his work ethic has been incredible for Everton. I do think looking at Everton, they seem to be a whole new team in their last few games, and versus the Southampton team could be very, very deadly. I think looking at Southampton in terms of their attacking ability as of late, they seem to be missing Brozier from last season. At the end of the day, it will be an incredibly close encounter, but something tells me this time around, after confidence in their last game, I do think for some reason Everton can take it. But moving on, we've got West Ham United versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now looking at Wolves, once again, not a fantastic start to their season. They've only scored 3 goals in their first 7 games. So on the attacking front, they're not great. But you know what? Guess what? Looking at West Ham United, they've also only scored 3 goals in their first 7 games.
We're not so different, you and I.
Neither of these two teams really kind of finding the targets at this point in time. In terms of goal scoring, they aren't quite there. I think looking at West Ham United, they should just scrap their Premier League games. Maybe the players should just take a break, a hiatus, and they should only play the Conference League games.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Maybe even win a European trophy, which would be really fascinating if they were somehow able to win it, but got relegated to the Championship. I mean, would they be able to play in the Europa League next season if they got relegated from the Premier League? That would kind of be interesting to find out. But at the end of the day, the bigger question to find out is, can they take the points versus Wolves? Well, you know, looking at Wolves, especially that game versus Manchester City, I know Manchester City are one of the top teams in world football. Haaland is just an absolute machine. I'm not sure that man is human. But at the end of the day, it was just a whole different ball game. I'm sure Wolves were playing a whole different sport in that game, because they just really weren't in their competition. And we know West Ham United, they've got a very elite mentality from time to time, and if they're able to switch it on, I think West Ham United could take this one 2-1. Now, moving on to our next game, talking about the devil itself, we've got the Red Devils versus Manchester City. Now, as a Manchester United fan, I'm not gonna lie, I am absolutely terrified for a fixture like this. I mean, heading into this, looking at Manchester United's defense as of late, I've been very happy, but I mean, the damn wall versus the flood that is Haaland, I feel like the damn wall of Manchester United's defense could so easily break. I've been so happy as a Manchester United fan. I mean, we've won our last 4 games, but we are going arguably against maybe the best team in world football at the moment. As we know, this is always a very close encounter, and form doesn't always matter between these two teams as it is normally so incredibly tense. Between the last 10 games between these two teams, we've had 5 Man City wins, 1 draw and 4 Manchester United wins. And the last time these two teams played against each other, Man City won 4-1. One kind of thing that is working in Manchester United's favour though is if you look at their last few games that they've played in the Premier League, they've taken points from teams like Arsenal, Leicester City and Liverpool. And looking at Manchester City, I'm not quite sure that they've played a top Premier League opposition yet. I mean, I guess you could make an argument versus a team such as West Ham United in the beginning of the season, but looking at Man City or Manchester United, I definitely feel like they've proven themselves versus top opposition, and because of that, it could be so incredibly close. Maybe it's just the biasness inside of me.
I guess we'll never know.
Maybe I've still got that glimpse of hope that we can do something this season. But at the end of the day, between these two teams, it is always such a close encounter, and I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Once again, it could go absolutely either way, probably Man City's way if there is a winner, and I want you guys to tell me in the comment section down below what your predictions for a game like this. Obviously, the person who got the most predictions right from last week was this person, whoever it was. I haven't checked my comment section yet, so of course, see if you guys can beat that result. But either way, moving on, because I don't want to think about us losing, we've got our second last game with Leeds United versus Aston Villa. Now, I don't know what it is between these two teams, but looking at Leeds United, although they have slipped up in their previous game with a 5-2 loss versus Brentford, they've been relatively good throughout the season so far. Yes, defensively still slip up here and there. It's Leeds United, it's guaranteed, but attacking wise, they've been brilliant, and Aston Villa haven't been brilliant so far this season. I have been worried about them. Once again, they've been very shocking from time to time, but in their previous game, they did beat Southampton 1-0. I do feel like this is a result that could potentially go either way, but as I said, with Leeds United and the way they've proven themselves from point this season, I do think they will win this one 2-1. Once again, it's just kind of a gut feeling, the same way Aston Villa's manager Steven Gerrard had a gut feeling he would end up slipping. But moving on to our final game of this Premier League match week, we have Leicester City versus Nottingham Forest. Now, Leicester City, I cannot believe it. 6 losses out of your 7 games. That is absolutely horrific. Only 1 point to show for it. And even versus a Nottingham Forest team, I'm terrified for you guys. This is the bottom 2 in the Premier League at the moment. How Brendan Rodgers hasn't lost his job, I have no idea. But I do feel like looking at these two teams, it could be so crucial for both of them. Once again, Nottingham Forest bringing in, 22, 23 new players this season. They have to start winning points eventually. Otherwise, I have no idea what's going to happen. We could see Big Sam at a team like this. I mean, we could see Big Sam at Leicester City at this point. I think looking at these two teams, it could be incredibly close. And I know this sounds like a very weird shout I'm going to say, but I feel like with Leicester City, they could get their first win of the season. And I'm telling you why I'm saying that. I think looking at a player like James Maddison, he has been absolutely brilliant. He wants to prove that he can be included in the England squad, although very late on in the season at this point. And I feel like he's just going to score a wonder goal winner for Leicester City. As I said, it's just a gut feeling. We'll see what happens. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my Premier League Match Week 9 predictions. Obviously, we've got some major games to look out for. I'm so excited, and I'm so excited that the Premier League's back. If you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe down below, as we are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. It would be absolutely mental, but I would appreciate it. Of course, hit the like button down below. The Premier League is back with all 20 teams. So let's see if we can get this video to 20 likes. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been your boy, Finn, FYNN. Until next time, cheerio.